I am visualizing me being in a state to transform their lives. That's what I'm going for. Hire me or not, right? This is a byproduct of the meeting, but this is what we tell prospects. You come in and spend an hour with me, I'm going to transform your life.
This is the perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah. Another myth bites the dust.
Hi, TPR Nation. Amber here from your Follow-Up Fridays. Today's episode is a snippet of one of our upcoming masterclasses that we'll be releasing on the prospect process. So enjoy this sneak peek and make sure that you email lifestyle@theperfectdiary.com so you don't miss out on this masterclass release.
Hey, everybody. Ever wish that you could get more from this podcast than just Micah and I telling jokes back and forth and making witty comments? Well, great news is that you can. For a select group of advisors, Micah and I will coach you through how to get your practice to the next level. What does that look like? It looks like regular webinars just for our members. It looks like access to templates, systems, processes, marketing materials that we're using day in and day out in our practice. It looks like the value adds that we're doing each calendar quarter. And it looks like the forum, the members only forum, where you can get spot coaching and ask questions to Micah and I directly. So go to theperfectria.com/grow/GROW to get more information from more great resources that are available to our podcast listeners.
Jarvis, welcome back. I'm super excited to dive into our next video series in this Prospect Masterclass. And as our viewers will absolutely tell, our scenery has slightly changed because one of us decided to try to burn down the Airbnb.
We did, in fact, I'm going to use the term we loosely. My mother used to always say, we, is there a mouse in your pocket? We did, in fact, catch a second Airbnb on fire. This was not our first one, but our second one. So that's a detail for another day. But fires or not, the prospect process is still critical. Micah, you and I spoke in the prior videos about how bad our prospect processes were.
My gosh.
And we kind of went down the examples of the prospect that told me, hey, Jarvis, I would love to hire you, but you look like you just came off your paper route. Another prospect said, hey, I would love to hire you. I'm just not really sure what it is you'll do for me. We talk to advisors all the time, Mike, who say, hey, I meet with this prospect and I think I'm doing a really good job. And then they say, well, I think I'll just take care of this myself, or I'm going to go talk to another advisor, and then they ghost. And all of these come back to an absence of value in the prospect's mind, not volume, right? No advisor is short on volume of content, but value in the prospect's mind. In fact, Micah, you had just shared with me before we hit record an example of a prospect where this was a little bit while ago when interest rates were a little bit different, where you had looked and said, hey, it doesn't make sense to do a refinance because of they were going to pay the loan write-off. And then they went to another advisor. The advisor says, hey, why didn't you look at this? Tell us about this and why it's so critical in this prospect meeting.
Yeah, this is really important. Now, if you're just jumping to this video and you've missed the other ones, right, which are going after who is your ideal market? How do you talk to prospects? Like, how do you get prospects to hire you before their appointment? Or what is your team involved in this process? If you jumped right to this meeting, you are missing out at a whole lot of gold. This whole prospect process is about setting up for the next thing. So if you jump right to the end, you will not get the same outcome. You will not get the same results. I can't emphasize that enough, right? This entire process matters. And we don't selectively pick and choose what we're going to do. This is a process of success. Every step is important as we go through this, which includes the previous video. So make sure you spent time on those ones.
For sure.
Jarvis, let's kind of jump into this one, right? I want to answer that question, but I want to put it in the context of the meeting, right? So let's talk about this. We've already talked about the meeting with the team, getting all of the data, how that's going to work out. Now they're coming in for their first appointment. Let's talk about how this is an in-office first appointment, right? Just to really dive into some details. We can also talk about Zoom and how that's going to work. Slight differences in Zoom, a lot of the same concepts. In Zoom, you have to be more on. You have to be more presenting, right?
Yep.
Because you're losing, because all you have is this little square of you. You're losing all the rest of your body language, right? And all the rest of the client's body language. And depending on their age, you may or may not just be looking at their forehead. So, these are things that we miss in there. So let's talk about our in-person meetings, and let's kind of back that up to the prospect. They're coming in the office. Number one, we've already communicated where they are, how to park, all of these great things. They come into the office. When they come into the office, there's good signage, says Shalansky and Associates, welcome. As they come in, our receptionist, regardless of what she's doing, she takes her headset off. If she's had her headset on for anything, she stands up and then greets the prospects probably by name. Very high probability we know who they are, and she's going to greet them by name. Bob and Sue, welcome. I'm Sarah. We've been talking on the phone. It's so great to see you today.
Yeah, no, interesting on this, Mike. I remember I've obviously been to your office in Anchorage several times. And even though I go there all the time, that's the same thing happens, right? So as long as I'm on the schedule, right? But you come in. Now, by the way, the first question that came to mind is, well, what if they're on the phone? They know when the prospect's scheduled in. You can usually from the reception desk see the lobby or see the parking lot, so they know the prospect's coming. So they're not on the phone. But the idea that someone stands and greets you by name, there is incredible power there, even when you know. Like, I know that was your policy. I knew that was going to happen. I was still impressed by that. I'm like, well, thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate you welcoming me. Now, by the way, if they weren't sure it was me, they could say, like, they would still stand and say, oh, welcome to Shalansky and Associates. Are you Matthew by chance? Right. And even if my name was Dave, I'd be like, actually, I'm Dave. Like, oh, Dave, it's so like they're ready for that contingency. This, Micah, you highlighted the importance of those prior videos. This seems like nothing. It is everything. The other part that's everything in this is you are really going to enjoy meeting with Micah today. You're really going to enjoy meeting with him. Of course, they're going to say that. What? Now, actually, not of course. I've been other places where you're like, oh,
they don't say that at all.
You don't want to work here. but those little things, it sets the stage of this is a professional thing. I'm a valued client or potential client. They're aware of who I am and they're excited about what they do. If the employees aren't excited about this work, I'm going to have a hard time getting excited.
Yeah, amen. Then step 2, after the greeting, we have kind of an L-shaped reception desk. Then the receptionist is going to walk out from behind the desk into the lobby area and offer them a beverage. Again, everything counts, right? We haven't even talked about the advisor coming to the meeting yet. No. And it's going to offer them a beverage, which is like some coffee, some tea, some water. She's going to help them get that prepared. We choose to sit them in the lobby versus sit them in the conference room. You can go either way. If it is an elderly prospect that's going to have mobility issues, we immediately set them in the conference room, not inside of the couch, right? Because we don't want to have that another challenge of kind of getting up and getting down. So the RM relationship manager really has to be able to read that situation.
Yeah, you really do, right? So you're offering, hey, would you like something to drink, coffee, tea, whatever, right? And these things, they matter. Interesting, Micah, before I had enough revenue to afford an assistant, my mom, literally my mother worked with me. And so she would greet clients. And it would always create this awkward thing. People would say, is that your wife? And I'd say, well, it's actually my mother. She's very complimented that you would think that, right? And I got to just confess, I was like a little embarrassed by that. I don't know why. I felt like I was kind of not making it as an advisor, and I kind of wasn't at the time. But even having literally my mother greet people was far better than what happens otherwise. They walk into an empty room. They're not sure if they're in the right place. So there's confusion, there's apprehension. The person's really not paying attention to them. More confusion, more apprehension, perhaps annoyance. Imagine your doctor's office. Like, that's not the experience. I want the experience of when I walk into my local coffee stand where I'm there all the time, or my local Starbucks. I do not want the experience of my dentist's office or my mechanic or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, here, look at me through plexiglass. I have a pen that's chained to the desk because you're going to steal my 12-cent pen, and I'm going to pass you forms through a hole and fill these out and get them back to me, right? That's not the experience that we're going for in this.
I got to confess here. This may not be true for you, Mike. What's true for me, it still is true for me. I want every single thing I can possibly do to be stacked in my favor, right?
Amen.
Everything. Could I still close the prospect on a terrible environment? Yeah, probably, because I can deliver enough value. But why would I want to do that? Why would I want to stack? Same with like the paper. If I bring a crinkly white piece of garbage paper or a 12-cent pen, why do I want to stack? Now, obviously there's a spot where this ends, right? If you have a custom mahogany desk, that's probably not giving the impression. If you have your Formula One car that you bought for $7 million parked in the lobby, like, it's probably not going to do the trick. Having quality coffee, having quality snacks, all these things make a big difference. Having a receptionist who's excited to see the person, greets them by name, seats them appropriately, tells them, hey, you're really going to enjoy meeting with Jarvis. All those things make a big difference for me.
I love it. Now, when it comes to the advisor being involved in this meeting, right? One of two things has happened. More than likely, the prospect has come in just a little bit early for their appointment, and I am still wrapping up my other appointment. So they see me already in a client meeting, which is another reason we, by default, host sit in the lobby versus sit in the conference room. And so I'm still in the conference room. So they're seeing me wrap up that meeting. I'm then leaving with those clients. And while I'm with my clients, I'm still engaged in chatting with them as I'm exiting to the door. And then we're explaining, Micah was, the clients are like, Micah, thank you so much for your help, right? All of this, again, I want to stack the deck in my favor. So now the prospects get to see these clients having a good experience. At least Micah has one other client, right?
Yep.
So there's at least one other client that's there. They're happy to see me. The meeting was really good. They're asking about the next action. We're having them book their next appointment, whatever that is. Then I step out. And by the way, because I have a calendar, I have a really good idea of who's coming up next. Sarah gives me a little bit of a clue to make sure these are my prospects and not somebody else's, because we have multiple advisors in our office, right? So assuming I know that and they're there, I'm going to do a quick introduction. Bob and Sue, so great. I'm glad you guys could come in today. Do a quick introduction. Hey, give me just a couple of minutes. Let me drop this stuff off. Let me grab yours and I'll be right back up. And, oh, yeah, Micah, not a problem. Take your time, and that allows me a couple minutes to go. I don't want to ignore them in the lobby and just press on.
No, though that couple minutes times, you're still getting them back from the lobby at exactly their meeting appointed time or a few minutes before that, right? This isn't like, 100%. Hey, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. Hang on here. So no, everything is still running perfectly to schedule. So they've had this warm welcome, right? And by the way, great train on that Ritz-Carlton. Think of it like a Ritz-Carlton's a great example of that, how they greet people. So you come back out, you greet them, I greet them. They're in the conference room now. You've sat them down.
Oh, Travis, can I pause? Sorry, I really want to get into some details. You skipped an important step.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that I do when I'm coming back, right? I've already got my coffee, my tea, bathroom break, whatever that is. Because again, I'm running a tight ship. I know my timelines. I have 4 to 5 minutes to visualize this appointment. So
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yep. So I'm going to pull my blue folder. It's where we have all our notes. Pull that apart. I'm going to look at the homework sheet. I'm going to look at their first names again. I'm going to just kind of review it. And I kind of close my eyes. If I'm working with a junior, another advisor, we'll work together on this process. I'm going to close my eyes. And I'm just going to kind of walk through greeting them, meeting them, transforming their lives. I'm not visualizing the questions I'm going to answer. I am visualizing me being in a state to transform their lives. That's what I'm going for. Hire me or not, right? This is a byproduct of the meeting, but this is what we tell prospects. You come in and spend an hour with me, I'm going to transform your life. And so that is my sole goal, to deliver that massive value in that period of time. And I want to make sure that I'm putting away anything from the previous meeting and that they are going to be able to get my full attention in this next 60 minutes. And when I skip that step, by the way, because that's an easy one to skip, I see the difference in these meetings. And I am robbing a prospect of a better process because I've chosen to skip that visualization step.
Boy, Mike, I appreciate you pointing that out. It's easy to see how quickly we skip that. Also, whatever head trash you have, it's a good time to do affirmations to counter that, right? If you're like, I don't know why these people would see me. These people came to see me over everyone else. These people understand the value, right? And they do, like they literally must, or they would not have taken time to come in. Now, again, sometimes we have to squint at that a little bit. And that's okay. That's what mantras and affirmations are for, right? They're here to have their life transformed. They're here because they understand that I'm one of the best that there is. They're here because they have questions that I can answer, right? So these are all affirmations that can go on, especially if you're nervous, right? We've all had those prospects that for whatever reason we're real nervous. Maybe we saw him in the lobby and the husband's arms are crossed and he's scowling and he's got like all of his DIY, or like he's got in his hand like the manifesto of 10 reasons you should shoot your financial advisor, like whatever it is. I'm going to use that one. I might be worried about. Short of that one, I'm going to manifest myself into that thing. And I'm going to be excited. I'm not checking, by the way, what are we not doing, Micah? I'm not checking my social real quick. I'm not sending out a couple of text messages. So. I'm not looking at the Wall Street Journal real quick. Visualizations all the way.
If the office pops in, because this will happen, right? A team member pops in and says, hey, I got this. Be like, hey, I'm trying to prepare for my next meeting. Is this a 911 where you need my attention now, or can I pick it up at whatever X time we have designated in our schedule to do that?
Yep.
I'm going to ask them, now, if they deem it's an emergency, then it's an emergency, right?
Yep.
But most of the time, that'll be enough to say, thank you for that. I'll come back at 12:30. So that process is going to be key. Jarvis, the other thing to add to that is sometimes when I was doing affirmations, sometimes now my affirmations, my head trash is going to kick in and be like, Micah, you're just telling yourself this bunch of crap, right? And it's not really true, blah, 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 blah. So my evidence, because I'm a very evidence-based decision maker, my evidence that I like to see with this is I keep an Evernote file with client thank yous.
That's right.
And if you don't have a team member doing this, right, you need an assistant that's really going out and grabbing all of these thank yous, whether it's a Christmas card thank you, whether it's an email, whether a client just tells you something, you take the time, take a picture of that, stick it in Evernote or wherever, and that when you're having these head trash moments or you're not at your A game, pull those up and start going through these list of clients that took the time to send you a note and you transform their lives.
Boy, one other one, this can become an entire video on affirmations. The other one I'll do is start, if you're looking for evidence, what things have I studied that it's unlikely that this prospect has studied, right? Wow. So no matter how versed of an engineer, DIYer it is, guaranteed I've read 100 times, 1,000 times more, right? You can even look like, I wonder how many episodes of the Perfect RA podcast I've listened to. Probably none. I wonder how many books on financial planning they've read. Maybe one. I wonder how many designations they have. Like, again, if you need evidence, there's evidence to stack up. And that's a good time to be stacking that up in your mind.
Yeah. Jarvis, do you have any clients that are CFPs?
I have a client who recently got a degree in financial planning. And he came in and he's like, hey, guess what I did over the summer? No idea. He says, I got a degree in financial planning. Oh, so my head trash, right? Where's my head trash immediately goes to, well, these guys are fired. And I think he was a smart guy, a longtime entrepreneur, right? So he's waiting to see me flinch. And I did a pretty good job of holding my poker face. I said, that's really interesting. What did you learn? He said, I learned that I'm going to keep you as my advisor forever. This is really hard work. Good. Not what I was expecting, but good.
Yeah, we have one client who's a CFP and kind of that same thing. He just wanted the knowledge. He doesn't want to do it, but he just wanted the knowledge. I was like, all right, well, rock on, dude. Okay, so all of that is before, we just spent like 15 minutes talking about this before the meeting, right? Now, as we're walking up to this meeting, oh, by the way, the DIY side, and I know we talked about this before about charging for appointments. This is one thing I love about charging for appointments. It changes the dynamics in the room. And Jarvis, you're very successful not charging for them. So clearly it's not, you have to do one or the other.
Yeah, but you can do it both ways, yeah.
But with my head trash, it's boom, they paid to be here. Right? They clearly see the expertise that's going to be here. So again, that's just another thing that I like to throw in there, my mental state to really help kind of build me up in these appointments.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. So I'm walking up there to the meeting. We come up there. I always pause. We have a little archway. So I always pause in the center of that archway, right? There's this thing about body language I read years ago that, you want to center yourself in the frame of something else and you want to do a brief pause because that's the initial view that they're seeing of you. So I always do that quick little pause right there. Then I go and greet them and shake their hands.
With a big smile, with full energy, with a good handshake. I mean, these are so many things that strike me as 101s, except I didn't always do them. Even, if you're a gentleman and you're wearing a shirt and a tie, which is the way you should be meeting clients, right? Your tie needs to be on straight. It needs to have a proper knot in it. And you can think, hey, these things don't matter. And we can compare bank account balances and I'll tell you if it matters or not, right? I want to stack the deck again in my favor. If you're closing every prospect and you have this phenomenal practice, I'm not sure why you're watching this video, dress however you want, right? But if you're saying, hey, listen, I really want to grow my practice, I want to be able to demonstrate more value, the more professional I appear, the more professional my countenance, the better probability I'm going to have of being able to transform these people's lives. And so for me, everything counts. Mike, I know obviously you feel the same way.
100%. And this is one of those things too, as we started bringing on other advisors into our team, Jarvis, that I was able to step back and see and get a lot of reflection, be like, hey, am I doing the same thing? Because it's a splinter and a plank, right? So much easier to see the little issues that these other advisors are doing because I'm watching for them and ignore my other things. So it's a great opportunity for me to see, hey, how close were they standing to the client? If you're a very tall guy and you have a very short client, how do you stand close to them, right? How do you help them with coffee? How do you transition? How do you shake their hands? How are you smiling? How are you empathetic? When are you engaging, right? All of these things, that body language, all of this stuff matters. And we haven't even gotten into any technical financial planning stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, we better keep this meeting going.
Yeah, but I mean, if we can't connect with them, it doesn't matter what knowledge we have. We won't be able to transform their lives. That's why this pregame is so important.
Yeah, that's where we see advisors, when we joke about this, that have more letters after their name than they have clients. The technical knowledge without being able to communicate it is worthless, right?
Right.
And you can outsource technical knowledge. So we go through all that. We get them sat down in the conference room together, right? We're going to assume this is a husband and wife. We're just going to take the most common scenario here. Micah, as you're sitting down, what are those first couple of sentences that are really setting the stage for this meeting?
Sure, and I'll ask for your patience. I'm going to drag this out even longer, right? As I come into the conference room, I generally lead them into the conference room. I put my, because we have a round table, I put my notepad down and where I'm going to be seated, and then I allow them, they choose their chairs. I'm generally the last one to be seated. And then depending on how the chit-chat's going, right? So as we're kind of walking up to the conference room, depending if it's summer or winter, I'll be like, how's your summer going? How's your winter going? What's new and exciting with you? So, some general questions. I have a couple different ones that I'll ask just to get them to talk a little bit. And then once we kind of transition into the financial planning meeting mode, the one thing that I want to do, I want to address if they have or have not talked to a financial planner before. I want to address that all of the information that they've uploaded and sent to us, and then what this meeting looks like, but more importantly, start asking for their questions, right? So these are really important things to do. So kind of the way that I'm going to do that is say, Bob and Sue, thank you guys for taking the time to come in and meet with me. Have you guys ever worked with a financial advisor before? And let's find out if they have or haven't.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That's more of an FYI for me, or to find out if they have a current one so I can change my dialogue potentially just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say they're a DIYer. Let's say they're not working with a financial advisor. Be like, okay, great. Well, if you've never met with a financial advisor, great news. This is not like a dentist office. You're not going to leave in pain. Hopefully this is going to be a little bit of fun as we go through it. And we're going to be able to answer a lot of great questions for you. Is that okay? Yep. And they'll say, yep, that's great. And then I'll be like, you know what? I have an agenda, some things that are really important for me to talk about, but more important to my agenda is yours. So I got some questions that you submitted in advance, but in addition to that, what big questions and concerns do you have that you want to make sure we're addressing today?
We hope that you enjoyed this sneak peek of our upcoming masterclass on the prospect process. Be sure to email us at lifestyle@theperfectRA.com to be updated on our masterclass releases.
Hey, before you leave, a quick word from our sponsors. Hey, everybody, I want you to take a quick look around your office, and on your desk, there should be the Retirement Tax Services Desktop Tax Guide. And if it's not there, or if it's not current, meaning you didn't download it in the last month, go to retirementtaxservices.com and download the Desktop Tax Guide. This is a must-have resource for every financial advisor committed to tax planning.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The perfect